My wife cheated on me with my best friend, then forged my signature to transfer $250, $0 of my inheritance into her name. Now she's claiming the house and half of my retirement funds during the divorce. I never imagined my life would turn into a complete nightmare. But here I am, sitting in my living room, staring at the chaos my wife, Lisa, has brought into my world. It all started with little signs, late nights, secretive phone calls, her suddenly being busy all the time. I brushed it off at first, telling myself she was just stressed with work or maybe just needed space. But then I started noticing things that didn't add up. Her phone started disappearing when she went to the bathroom, and she'd get defensive when I asked about her whereabouts. One day, I came home early from work unexpectedly. I wasn't suspicious, just eager to surprise her. When I walked in, I immediately sensed something was off. The house was too quiet and her purse was on the kitchen table, which was strange because she usually took it with her everywhere. I looked inside and found her phone unlocked. I hesitated, then couldn't resist. I scrolled through her messages, and that's when I saw it: texts with my best friend Jake talking about the best night ever and plans to meet up again. My stomach turned. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I read more and the details were explicit: how they'd been sneaking around for months, how they couldn't keep their hands off each other. I saw pictures too, not just texts. Naked photos of Lisa and a few of Jake's face buried in her neck. My mind was racing. I didn't want to believe it, but there it was, staring back at me on my phone screen. I quietly put her phone back on the table, my heart pounding. I felt betrayed in ways I can't even put into words. I'd trusted her with everything: my life, my money, my future. And now I found out she'd been lying to my face all this time. My first instinct was to confront her right then and there, but I knew I needed to gather myself first. I went to our bedroom, closed the door, and just sat there trying to process what I'd just discovered. How could she do this to me? How could my wife, the woman I loved and built a life with, cheat on me with my best friend? That night I couldn't sleep. My mind kept replaying the images, the lies, the betrayal. I felt so stupid for not seeing the signs earlier. I kept asking myself what I did wrong, what I could have done differently. But honestly, I knew deep down that this wasn't about me. Lisa had always been self-centered, manipulative, and bitchy when she didn't get her way. She'd lie about everything, especially when it came to money. She'd always had a way of spinning stories about her hardships, but I now realized she was just hiding her real life, one that involved cheating, deception, and greed. And then there was the money. I had recently inherited a good chunk of change from my grandmother, about $250, $0. I was planning to invest it, maybe buy a small cabin or put it into my retirement fund, but I never got the chance. Lisa forged my signature on some documents and transferred that inheritance into her own name. I found out after she started acting even more entitled, claiming I wasn't doing enough to support her. She was already asking about the house, about half my retirement funds, like she was entitled to everything I had. I felt sick, not just because she cheated, but because she stole from me, my money, my trust, everything I'd worked for. And to make it worse, she was lying through her teeth, denying everything when I confronted her. She called me paranoid, accused me of invading her privacy, and told me I was overreacting. That's the thing with Lisa: she's a master at lying, twisting everything around so she looks innocent. She's good at pretending to be the victim, even when she's the one doing the damage. I knew I had to do something. I couldn't let her get away with this. But I also didn't want to jump into action blindly. I needed a plan. I started thinking about how much she's already taken: money, my dignity, my peace of mind. I knew I had to be smart, precise. I couldn't just file for divorce and let her walk away with everything. No, I wanted to make her pay for what she did. I wanted her to feel the same pain I was feeling now, maybe even more. Over the next few days, I started gathering evidence: bank statements, emails, everything I could find. I hired a private investigator to confirm her affair and document her activities. I wanted proof, not just for the divorce, but to show her that I wasn't going down without a fight. The more I uncovered, the angrier I became. I realized Lisa had been planning this for a long time, playing the victim, lying, stealing. She was manipulative and ruthless, but I wasn't going to let her win. I was furious, but I also knew I had to stay calm and strategic. I decided I'd confront her again, but this time I'd be ready. I'd tell her that I knew everything and that I was going to take back what was mine, my money, my house, my retirement. She thought she could lie her way out of it, but she was dead wrong. I was done playing nice. This was war. The day I decided to confront Lisa for the second time, I knew I had to be careful. I'd gathered enough evidence to make her squirm, and I wanted her to understand that I wasn't some naive fool anymore. I also knew I had to catch her off guard. So I set the stage carefully. I invited her to sit down in the living room, pretending everything was normal, but inside I was boiling with anger and planning my next move. When she walked in, looking fake and sweet, probably trying to act innocent, I could see the flicker of her bitchy smirk. She always thought she was better than everyone else, especially when she was trying to manipulate the situation. I looked her straight in the eyes and said, "Lisa, I found your phone. I saw the messages with Jake. Care to explain?" Her face immediately changed. The fake smile dropped, replaced with a mixture of panic and annoyance. "Oh, that," she said, brushing her hair back with a little laugh. "It's nothing, just some stupid girl talk. Jake's just a friend, you know that." She tried to shrug it off, but I wasn't buying it. I pulled out my phone and showed her the screenshots I had saved, her naked photos, the explicit texts, the plans they'd made. Her eyes widened and she started to stammer. "You're such a paranoid freak. You always jump to conclusions. You're overreacting, seriously." I wasn't going to let her lie. Her way out of this one, I told her I knew about the affair, the forgery, the money. Her face turned red, then white. She started to deny everything, but I cut her off. "Don't even bother, I have the proof. I've already talked to a lawyer about the inheritance transfer and I know you forged my signature." Her eyes darted around, trying to find an escape, but I pressed on. "You've been stealing money, Lisa. My inheritance, half my retirement, and now you're claiming the house. You think you can just take everything I built." She started to cry, but it was the kind of crocodile tears I'd seen before, fake, manipulative, designed to guilt-trip me. "You don't understand," she whined. "I was just trying to fix things, okay? You're never home, you're always working, and I felt alone. Jake's just a friend, I didn't mean for it to get this big, I swear." Her voice cracked, and for a moment I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. But then I remembered how she lied, how she betrayed me for months, how she forged my signature and stole from me. I told her she was a liar and a thief, and I was tired of her bullshit. I said I'd be taking legal action, and she'd be lucky to get anything out of the divorce, if she even got anything at all. I told her I'd be fighting for my house, my retirement, and the money she stole. I wanted her to know I wasn't just going to roll over like she expected. That's when she snapped. She started yelling, calling me a controlling bastard, saying I was ruining everything. She told me I was just jealous of Jake, that I was paranoid and insecure. Honestly, I'd never seen her like that, so bitchy, so aggressive. It was like she was trying to gaslight me, make me doubt myself. But I wasn't falling for it this time. I was done being the nice guy who turns the other cheek. I told her she was a liar, a cheat, and a thief, and I was going to make sure she paid for everything. I told her I'd call the lawyer, file for divorce, and make sure she got nothing that wasn't legally hers. She stormed out of the room, screaming that I was ruining her life, that I'd never find anyone better, that she'd destroy me if she had to. That was the moment I realized how deeply she was willing to go to keep what she wanted: money, the house, her lies. I knew I had to stay calm, but inside I was boiling with rage. I'd never felt so betrayed, so humiliated. Over the next few days, I started to put my plan into motion. I hired a private investigator, as I said before, and got access to her bank accounts, her phone records, everything. I wanted to know exactly how far she'd go. Turns out she'd been secretly transferring money into her own accounts for months, using the forged documents, lying about her expenses, claiming she needed support because I was paying enough attention. I found out she also been secretly seeing Jake at least twice a week, sometimes more. The betrayal cut deep. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach every time I uncovered something new. All those years of trust, all that love I thought I had for her, it was just a lie. She was a manipulative, greedy woman who was willing to destroy everything for money and sex. I started to realize that I had to be careful with how I handled this. I couldn't just blow up and ruin everything. I needed a clear plan. Meanwhile, Lisa kept trying to lie her way out of it, throwing tantrums, acting like the victim. She'd scream that I was crazy, that I was ruining her life, and that I was jealous of Jake. She even accused me of spying on her, which was true, but for all the right reasons. I couldn't trust her anymore. She'd lied so many times that I was starting to question everything, my own judgment, my memories. It was like waking up from a nightmare I couldn't escape. But I wasn't about to let her win. I'd fight this legal battle, I'd reclaim what was mine, and I'd make her regret ever crossing me. That's what kept me going, knowing that I'd get justice, even if it hurt like hell in the meantime. I knew she was a bitch, a manipulative bitch, and I wasn't going to let her get away with this. She thought she was smarter than me, but I was learning her game, and I was ready to play it better. After gathering all the evidence and watching her carefully, I knew I couldn't just confront Lisa again without a solid plan. I had to be strategic, methodical, because I was dealing with someone who thrived on lies and manipulation. The moment I realized how deep her deception ran, I decided I needed to get legal advice. I found a lawyer I trusted, someone experienced in divorce and financial fraud, and set up a meeting. The lawyer, a sharp woman named Corinne, listened patiently as I laid out everything. The affair with Jake, the forged signatures, the stolen inheritance, and Lisa's attempts to claim the house and half my retirement. Her eyes narrowed as I spoke, taking notes, nodding. She told me I had a strong case, especially with the forged documents and the evidence of the affair. The money theft was a clear breach of trust, and she explained that I could potentially recover what was stolen and fight her claim on the house and retirement funds. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying everything, her lies, her bitchy attitude, the way she tried to gaslight me when I confronted her. I felt stupid for trusting her so blindly, for thinking she was my partner. Now I saw her for what she really was, a manipulative, greedy woman who would do anything to get her way, even if it meant destroying me in the process. I was furious, but also overwhelmed. I'd never been in a situation like this before, and I didn't quite know what to expect going forward. Over the next few days, I started to prepare for the next step. I went through all our joint accounts, carefully noting every suspicious transfer she'd made. I found dozens of withdrawals and transfers into her accounts, money she'd stolen right under my nose. I also discovered she'd been secretly paying off certain people, probably her enablers, to keep her secrets safe. The more I found out, the more I realized how much of my life she'd been secretly destroying. Meanwhile, Lisa kept up her act. She'd call me in the middle of the night, crying, saying she didn't mean to hurt me, that she was just trying to fix things, and that I was being paranoid. She accused me of controlling her and said I was ruining our marriage for no reason. But I knew better. I saw her texts, her emails, her secret meetings. I even hired a private investigator to confirm her whereabouts when she said she was working late. It turned out she was with Jake, again, at some hotel doing God knows what. Seeing her with Jake, knowing what she'd done, made my blood boil. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind. I always thought she was just a little bitchy, a little narcissistic, but now I saw her for what she really was. A dishonest, manipulative thief who'd cheat on me and steal from me without a second thought. I felt betrayed on every level, but I had to stay focused. I knew I couldn't just go crazy and accuse her without proof. That's why I kept collecting everything. I wanted irrefutable evidence to show the court. I also started drafting a detailed account of her financial crimes and her affair, because I knew I'd need to present a clear case if we went to divorce court. I also began to mentally prepare myself for what was coming, because I knew Lisa wouldn't go down without a fight. She was the kind of woman who'd burn everything down if she thought she'd lose. While I was doing all this, she kept trying to manipulate me, trying to guilt-trip me into thinking I was the problem. She'd say things like, "You're just jealous of Jake," or "You're making this up because you're insecure." She even accused me of spying on her, which honestly I was. I had to be sure she wasn't sneaking around behind my back. I'd catch her in little lies, and every time I felt more disgusted. How could she lie so effortlessly? How could she be so bitchy, so entitled? The turning point came when I found out she'd been secretly transferring money from our joint account into her personal accounts, more than I initially thought. It added up to thousands of dollars over the past few months. I was furious. That's when I realized I had to act fast. I couldn't just wait for the divorce papers to be served. I needed to take control of the situation, and I needed to do it quietly, carefully, so she wouldn't suspect what I was planning. I decided to file for divorce on the grounds of infidelity and financial misconduct. I wanted her to know I had all the evidence, that I was serious about fighting for what's mine. I also instructed my lawyer to prepare a motion to freeze her assets, her bank accounts, her savings, everything she'd been hiding. I wanted to make sure she couldn't just run off with my money or claim everything I had. I felt a mix of relief and dread. Relief because I finally had a plan, and dread because I knew the fight was just beginning. Lisa was manipulative, vindictive, and she'd do anything to keep her grip on what she wanted: money, the house, the retirement. I also knew she'd try to turn the tables, accuse me of being controlling or jealous, but I was ready. I had the evidence, and I was determined to get justice. As I prepared for what was next, I kept asking myself how I got here, how I let someone like Lisa, who seemed so charming and bitchy, betray me so completely. I'd trusted her for years, and now it felt like that trust was completely shattered. But I also knew I couldn't dwell on the past. I had to focus on reclaiming my life, my money, and my dignity. This was going to be a long, ugly fight, but I was ready. I wasn't going to let her walk away with everything I'd worked for. Not this time. The day I served Lisa with the divorce papers, I could see the shock on her face, but it was also mixed with something darker: anger, maybe even fear. She thought she'd played me long enough, that her lies and manipulations had kept her safe. But I'd had enough. I handed her the papers myself, watching her reaction carefully. She took them with a trembling hand, then looked up at me with those bitchy, manipulative eyes, trying to maintain that air of superiority she always had. Her voice was tight as she asked, "What's this all about? You're overreacting. You're just jealous of Jake." I looked her straight in the eyes and said, "No, Lisa, this isn't about jealousy. It's about you stealing from me, cheating on me, forging my signature, and trying to take everything I worked for. You've been lying to me for months, and I've got the proof. I want a divorce, and I want everything back that you stole." She scoffed, trying to act unaffected, but I could see her trembling. That bitchy mask was cracking. Over the next few days, things got ugly fast. She started accusing me of being paranoid, of spying on her, and even of trying to ruin her life. She threw tantrums, yelled at me in front of the kids, and played the victim, crying crocodile tears that seemed so fake I almost felt sick. But I stayed focused. I knew her game. I had the evidence, and I knew she'd try to spin everything to her advantage. That's why I kept documenting everything: her manipulative texts, her secret meetings, the transferred money, the forged signatures. Meanwhile, my lawyer was busy preparing for the legal battle. We filed a motion to freeze her assets, so she couldn't access the money she'd stolen. We also filed to claim the house, arguing that she had no right to it since she was trying to cheat her way into ownership. The judge granted the freeze, and I could see her panic starting to set in. She wasn't used to losing control, especially not over money or her own lies. The real shock came when I got a court order to examine her bank accounts and phone records. I found more evidence of her deception, more transfers, more secret meetings with Jake, and even some payments to shady characters I didn't recognize. I also discovered she'd been trying to set up a new life, secretly opening new bank accounts and transferring money out of our joint accounts. The extent of her greed was staggering. One night she confronted me in tears, claiming she'd changed, that she was sorry and begging me to forgive her. She said she'd do anything to fix things, even if it meant giving up Jake or her stolen money. But I wasn't buying it. I saw through her lies. I knew she was desperate, trying to manipulate her way out of the mess she created. I told her I didn't believe a word of it, and that I was going to fight to get what was rightfully mine. The tension in the house was unbearable. She kept up her act of being the victim, but I saw her for what she really was: a bitchy, manipulative woman who was trying to cling to her stolen wealth and her affair with Jake. I also realized how much she'd lied to everyone, her friends, her family, even the kids. She'd spun stories about being overworked or unhappy, but all I saw was greed and betrayal. The legal proceedings moved quickly after that. My lawyer managed to get a court date set for the divorce hearing, and I prepared my case meticulously. I had all the evidence, the forged documents, the bank transfers, the explicit texts, the photos, and the witness statements from the private investigator. I knew Lisa would try to deny everything, but I had the proof to crush her lies. I also started talking to a financial advisor to figure out exactly how much she'd stolen and what I could recover. Meanwhile, Lisa's bitchy side came out even more. She started accusing me of ruining her life, claiming I was just jealous of Jake and that I was trying to punish her. She even tried to turn the kids against me, telling them I was a terrible father for destroying our family. That was the moment I realized she was fully willing to manipulate everyone for her own benefit. I felt a mixture of disgust and frustration. How could someone be so selfish, so vindictive? As the court date approached, I felt a strange mixture of relief and dread. I knew this legal battle would be long and ugly, but I also knew I had the truth on my side. I was tired of her bitchy lies, tired of her trying to control everything. She thought she could just walk away with my money and my house, but I was determined to fight for what was mine. I wasn't going to let her destroy me, not without a fight. In the quiet moments, I wondered how I got here, how I let someone like Lisa, so bitchy and manipulative, get so close. I thought about all the signs I ignored, all the times she lied and I didn't see it. I felt stupid for trusting her, but at the same time I realized I wasn't alone. I had the truth, and I had my lawyer. I was finally taking back control. This was just the beginning, but I knew I'd come out of this stronger. I had to. The courtroom was a battlefield I wasn't prepared for, but I knew I had to be ready. Lisa showed up with her usual bitchy smirk, trying to look innocent, but I could see the cracks in her facade. She was nervous, desperate even. She knew she was cornered. I sat there clutching my notes, feeling the weight of everything I'd uncovered. The forged signatures, the transfers, her lying about Jake, and the stolen inheritance. My lawyer, Karen, was sharp and prepared, ready to tear her apart with the evidence. When the judge called the case, Lisa's lawyer tried to spin her version, claiming she was a victim, that she only acted out of desperation, and that I was controlling and paranoid. She painted her as the innocent wife who was just trying to make ends meet. Even though I had proof of her secret accounts and the money transfers, I saw through her lies immediately. I stood up, presenting the evidence I'd collected, showing the forged signatures, the bank statements, the texts, everything. Lisa's face turned pale as I laid it all out. Her bitchy mask cracked completely. She tried to deny everything, but I had the proof to back me up. I even brought in the private investigator's reports, her sneaking around with Jake, the hotel receipts, the transfers. I could see her trembling, her carefully constructed lies crumbling. The judge looked at her with a mixture of skepticism and disapproval. Then came the moment I'd been waiting for, my turn to speak. I told the court how Lisa had betrayed me, stolen from me, and lied to my face for months. I explained how she forged my signature to transfer my inheritance into her name, how she'd been secretly siphoning money from our joint accounts, and how she'd been having an affair with Jake behind my back. I emphasized that I wanted full custody of the house, the return of my stolen money, and that she shouldn't get a penny of my retirement funds. Lisa, sitting there bitchy as ever, tried to interrupt, but the judge silenced her. My voice was steady, firm, and clear. I knew I had the upper hand. The evidence was overwhelming. I saw the judge's face change from skeptical to sympathetic as I detailed her manipulative tactics, her lies, her greed. When I finished, the judge nodded, and I could see a hint of approval. The judge then made the ruling, awarding me full custody of the house, ordering Lisa to pay back the stolen inheritance, and freezing her assets until the divorce was finalized. The court also awarded me a significant portion of my retirement funds, which Lisa had tried to claim. She was furious. Her bitchy attitude turned into outright rage. She shouted, called me a controlling asshole, and accused me of ruining her life. But it didn't matter. I'd won the first battle, and I felt a strange mix of relief and exhaustion. As I left the courtroom, I couldn't help but reflect on everything that had led me here. I'd trusted her, loved her, built a life with her. And she'd betrayed me in the worst ways possible. The pain was still there, but I knew I was finally taking control. I had fought for my dignity, my money, and my future, and I'd won, but the aftermath was just beginning. Lisa was now facing the consequences of her actions, legal, financial, and emotional. She was already trying to spin her version to her friends and family, claiming she was the victim. But I knew the truth, and I had the evidence to back it up. I was now in the process of rebuilding my life, one step at a time. I learned a lot from this nightmare. Trust is fragile, and sometimes people will do anything, lie, cheat, steal, to get what they want. But I also learned that standing up for myself, gathering proof, and fighting back is the only way to truly reclaim what's yours. Lisa may have been bitchy, manipulative, and entitled, but I was smarter. I'd survived her betrayal, and I was determined to come out stronger on the other side. In the days that followed the court ruling, I felt a strange mixture of relief and emptiness. The legal battle was over, and I'd finally secured what was rightfully mine: my house, my inheritance, my retirement funds. But the emotional scars ran deep. Lisa was gone, not just physically, but from my life entirely. Her bitchy, manipulative nature had revealed itself completely, and I was left to pick up the pieces of a shattered trust. I moved out of the house shortly after the divorce was finalized. It was strange walking away from everything I'd built with her: memories, plans, a future I thought we shared. Now, all I had was a sense of liberation, a hard-earned victory over betrayal. I had to start over, rebuilding my life from scratch, but I knew I'd be better for it. Trust had become a fragile thing, and I'd learned the importance of being cautious, of never ignoring the warning signs. Looking back, I realize how naive I was to trust her so blindly. Lisa's bitchy, entitled attitude masked her true nature: a woman willing to lie, cheat, forge documents, and steal to get what she wanted. Her affair with Jake was just the tip of the iceberg. She'd been planning this entire scheme for months, maybe longer. That realization hit me hard, but it also made me more cautious about who I let into my life moving forward. The experience taught me that sometimes the people closest to you can betray you the most. It's a painful lesson, but one that's necessary. I've become more guarded, more aware of the red flags I previously ignored. And I've learned that fighting back, standing up for yourself, can be the most empowering thing you can do, even when it seems like the odds are stacked against you. Now, I'm focusing on myself. I've started therapy to deal with the emotional fallout. I've also begun to rebuild my savings, investing carefully, making sure I'm protected from future betrayals. I've cut ties with anyone who enabled her or turned a blind eye to her manipulations. I've realized that the only person I can truly rely on is myself. Looking at all this, I can honestly say I'm stronger now than I was before. Betrayal hurts, but it also awakens something inside you, a resilience you didn't know you had. I want anyone going through something similar to know that you're not alone. Trust is fragile, and sometimes people will do horrible things to get what they want. But you have the power to fight back, to stand your ground, and to reclaim your life. Lisa's bitchy attitude, her lies, her greed, they all backfired on her. She thought she could manipulate her way out of everything, but she underestimated how determined I was to protect what was mine. I'll never forget the pain, but I also won't forget the strength I found in myself during this ordeal. And so, I move forward. I'm rebuilding, healing, and learning to trust again, more carefully this time. Because if there's one thing I've learned from all this, it's that betrayal isn't the end. It's just a harsh lesson that pushes you to grow stronger. And I intend to do just that.